Hey guys, just coming at you here in a follow-up video to the Bowdrill fire that I did using the Bushcrafter kukri. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of that to help you. The bow and drill fire was done with willow, and the bearing block was the Bowdrill divot supplied on my Bushcrafter kukri here. I was experimenting with this, taking this bolt out and using this hole, but that didn't really pan out too good, so I just put the bolt back in. So it was an idea, always looking to try new things. Now, when we look at my Bowdrill action, we noticed towards the end that my string on my bow started to slip. And the string was tight, but the problem is, you're always going to have little issues. Now, the string was tight, but the thing is willow's pretty soft, so if you look close you could see string marks in there. So it was tight enough to make string marks in my spindle. Now, that said, you have to have a tight string. You have to have a pretty tight piece of cordage. It has to be able to grip. One thing that I always do on my spindles is I take my knife, whether it's the Bushcrafter or it's any other kind of knife. You can use whatever knife that you like, but you need to be able to do push cut or draw cut on your spindle. So I made a little demo video the other day of a spindle and a hearth board, cutting them out of a branch or whatever, and I was showing you guys push cuts and draw cuts on the spindle, and those will aid in giving your bow cordage a better purchase on the spindle. With that said, the thing is you can't really do anything about the wood giving in to like your cordage. Okay, you can't really do anything about that. You just kind of got to deal with it and do the best you can to get the best outcome. And of course the best outcome is having a fire, right? Because you want to get warm. So you got to get your fire going. So you just got to try to take your time, try to deal with things the best you can. Don't get overly anxious. Stay calm. The idea is to stay calm, right? So it may be hitting the fan around you, but you got to keep focused and on target. So that's the idea here with the fire as well. You got to keep on target. Now, what helps me when I'm making my bow and drill fire? What helps me? Now, keep in mind, I haven't done a bow drill fire in about 8 to 10 years. It's been a long time because, I like my ferro rods, and, I burn less calories with the ferro rod, right? So the thing is that, but it is, it's a viable skill to have. You need to know how to do it. There's a lot of skills. We talked about that in the overview of bushcraft and survival the other day in that 5-part series. So there's a lot of core things that you should endeavor to work on. Whatever is your weak point, you really need to go to that, you know. But how do we maximize our effort? Okay, so when I start out with my Bowdrill hearthboard, I got my hearthboard here, all right, and I already did my burn in, and I've already got my little cut here. This cut doesn't need to be huge. I have seen a lot of times over the past years, people cut a big old opening down here in the bottom, and they say, "Oh, that's for air." Well, okay, if you know, I mean, anybody could think that. I mean, I'm not into like continuing to tell people something without any like logic behind it. In my opinion, it's not going to get any more air than the air that's around it anyway. It's not like there's air blowing up underneath your hearthboard from the dirt, right? Okay, and I'm not trying to like step on anybody's toes. I look at everything from a logical standpoint. So, you know, my thing is I have just enough there to allow that powder, that wood powder, to fall in front of the hearthboard. And I want it like a water slide. So it's kind of hard for me to think about how to draw this, but you know, think of it as having just a little chute, coming down to the front. Just, you know, all you need is a small chute. All that stuff is going to build up in the front of that hearthboard, and your friction is what's catching that on fire. There's all the air in the world out here in front of the hearthboard. Now, when I blow out with my lungs, I blow out 16% oxygen. And I know that because when I have been testing breathing gas, okay, I've blown into an oxygen analyzer and I'm blowing out 16%. Alright. So I'm using, you know, a very small amount of oxygen when I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out about 16%. So when we have our fire triangle, we need heat. We need a combustible material. So we need combustible material. In this case, it's wood. All right. And what the heck is my brain isn't working. We got heat, a material that combusts, and oh yeah, and we were just talking about it, O2, right? So we need O2. So we got our oxygen, we got our heat, and we have a combustible material. When we combine these three things, we get fire. Fire. Now, when I apply that heat, when I'm doing my Bowdrill, how much heat does it take to cause wood to burn? Okay, time's up. It takes about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. It takes about 400 degrees Fahrenheit to ignite that wood. That's average. There's differences between woods. We all know that. You know, if anybody wants to get technical, you know, go read a book. So, but on average, you get about 400 degrees Fahrenheit, you got fire. So that's what you need. So if you do a lot of speed, you know, you're going to get that friction and you'll get that heat. Now, let's talk about the top of my spindle. You see this? This is looking at the top down of my spindle. I got 6 sides there. Now what I'm doing is in the very beginnings of time, when I had started doing all this many moons ago, I would always put a lot of facets all over my drill, okay, up until today, okay, up until today. So I stopped because I like to think about everything I'm doing, and I started thinking and I said, self, what the heck are you doing? And I started looking at the end of that drill, and I said, if I have larger facets, then I will get more work done with less effort, and I will get a fire faster. Because if I do smaller facets like I've been doing all of these years, what happens is my facets just get consumed up real quick, and then all of a sudden it's smooth as glass. So what I did today, I changed my method. And this is another thing, guys. Don't be afraid to try new things and change up. Okay, I'm doing it today. 6 facets. 6 facets. So I put 6 large facets on there. And here, as you can see, it's not pointed. It's just slightly, it's kind of flat or a little bit rounded there. But I had 6 big facets. This allows me to have a lot of friction and move more material. So I'm moving more material with less effort. I'm building up my powder, right, which we want to ignite. I'm building up my powder faster because I got these big blades basically just chewing away in there. And then when I really start getting that powder packed up, then I just pour it on. And I'm not necessarily pushing down harder, just a little bit harder, and then I'm pouring on the speed. Guys, I hope that helps. If you have questions, just drop me a line. Don't be afraid to try new things, and have a good time. Catch you later.